السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. I am Assistant Lecturer Lamia Hadi. I will talk about the first lab of the gametogenesis, oogenesis. The first slide, the ovary. The ovarian surface is covered by cuboidal single layers of the cuboidal epithelial is called the germinal epithelial. The single layers or cuboidal layers covered the epithelial is called germinal epithelial. Beneath the germinal epithelial, a dense connective tissue is called the tunica albuginea, and beneath the tunica albuginea you can see the cortical regions of the ovary is called the cortex, and the inner of the ovary is called the medulla containing the blood, nerve, and lymphatic tissue, while the cortical regions were the ovarian follicles, you can see, containing to the ovarian follicles. In these regions you can see numerous of the primordial follicle cells. Primordial follicles consist of the single layers or flattened cells or squamous epithelial surrounded the primary oocyte. In the high magnifications you can see this is the primordial follicles consist of the single layers of flattened cells or squamous epithelial surrounded the nucleus. The flattened cells proliferations by the mitotic division, forming the single layers of the cuboidal epithelial. The flattened cells become the cuboidal follicular cells, surrounded by the primary oocytes. Now these follicles is called the growing follicles. The growing follicle consists of the single cuboidal epithelial surrounded the primary oocyte, while the primordial follicle consists of the single flattened cells also surrounded the primary oocyte. Now the cuboidal epithelial proliferations by mitotic division and forming the stratified epithelial is called the follicular cells or the granulose cells. Now these called the primary follicles. Again, primordial follicles, single flattened cells, and this is the growing follicles consist of the single cuboidal epithelial, and this is the primary oocytes, primary follicles consist of the stratified of the granulose cells. You can see between the primary oocytes and the granulose, you can see these layers, non-cellular glycoproteins, is called the zona pellucida. Zona pellucida, non-cellular glycoprotein, between them the primary oocyte and the granulose cells. Now stroma Now you can see in the high magnification the stroma cells surrounded the follicle cells, now differentiated into the theca internal layers that is located adjacent to the granulosa cells. This layer is called theca internal, or is called the inner hormonal secretions. These layers secretions the estrogen and progesterone hormone. And the outer layers, this connective tissue layers, is called theca interna. Now this is the theca interna, hormonal secretions, or the inner hormonal secretions is called the theca interna, while theca external only connective tissue. You can see this is the zona pellucida, non-cellular glycoprotein, locations between the primary oocyte and the granulosa cells. Theca interna, theca externa, and this is the primary oocyte. This is the nucleolus of the primary oocyte. Now, in these sections, you can see the follicles increase in size and follicular liquid beginning to communications between the follicle cells and forming a crescent-shaped cavity. This cavity is called the antrum. When the follicle show a crescent-shaped cavity is called the antrum. Now this follicles is called the secondary follicle. Also surrounded the primary oocyte. You can see this is the theca interna and this is the theca externa. Granulosa cells show the crescent-shaped cavity. These follicles is called the secondary follicle. Now the follicle liquid is larger, and the antrum, you can